All right, let's dive into something that's been making headlines lately, and honestly, it's pretty alarming. We're talking about the rapid spread of the H5N1 bird flu virus in Australia, and what's unfolding right now feels like a ticking time bomb. Here's the deal. Just 6 weeks after the virus arrived in the country, we're already seeing what could be the first mass mortality event among native birds. Over 80 dead and sick greater crested terns were spotted off the South Australian coast, and authorities are pretty sure this is just the beginning. Now, what makes this really interesting is the speed at which this is escalating. Personally, I think this is a wake-up call for how quickly these kinds of diseases can spiral out of control. Australia was the last continent to be hit by H5N1, and yet here we are, already seeing mass die-offs. It's like the virus hit the ground running, and the fact that it's now spreading inland, with cases popping up near poultry farms, is a massive red flag. One thing that immediately stands out is how this mirrors what happened in South America, where early detections quickly turned into widespread outbreaks. Jack Goff from the Invasive Species Council put it perfectly. This is just the beginning, and it's already looking devastating. But here's where it gets even more concerning. The virus has now jumped to silver gulls. If you take a step back and think about it, silver gulls are basically everywhere in Australia. Coastal areas, inland lakes, even urban environments. They're scavengers, which means they're picking up the virus from dead birds and potentially spreading it far and wide. Sean Dooley from BirdLife Australia pointed out that these gulls could be the vector that takes bird flu inland, and that's a nightmare scenario. What many people don't realize is that Australia has a ton of unique bird species, and we have no idea how many of them are susceptible to H5N1. It's like we're flying blind here. In my opinion, the most chilling part of this story is the sense of helplessness. Skye Froen, South Australia's chief vet, said there's nothing we can do to stop the spread. Surveillance is working, sure, but that's just tracking the disaster. It's not preventing it. And when you consider that this virus has already killed millions of birds and mammals worldwide, it's hard not to feel a sinking feeling in your gut. BirdLife Australia described it as trying to suppress that gut-churning feeling. And I think that sums it up perfectly. This isn't just about birds, it's about entire ecosystems at risk. What this really suggests is that we're at a critical juncture. The virus is here, it's spreading, and we're still in the early stages. But the fact that it's already hitting mass mortality levels is a stark reminder of how fast things can deteriorate. From my perspective, this raises a deeper question. How prepared are we for these kinds of outbreaks? Australia's unique wildlife is a treasure, but it's also incredibly vulnerable. If H5N1 continues to spread unchecked, the consequences could be catastrophic. So, where does this leave us? Personally, I think we need to be talking about this more, not just as a local issue, but as a global one. Bird flu doesn't respect borders, and what's happening in Australia could be a preview of what's to come elsewhere. A detail I find fascinating is how this virus has managed to stay under the radar for so long, only to explode in such a short time. It's a reminder of how interconnected our world is, and how quickly things can go wrong when we're not paying attention. As we wrap this up, I'm left with one big question. What can we do to mitigate this? Surveillance is important, but it's not enough. We need proactive measures, international cooperation, and a lot more research into how this virus behaves. Because if there's one thing this outbreak has taught us, it's that we can't afford to be complacent. So, what do you think? Is this something we should be more worried about? Let me know in the comments below, and let's keep this conversation going. Because if there's one thing I'm sure of, it's that this story is far from over.